Awesome. Welcome, everybody. I see you guys coming in. Hello, Ashley, Alex, Joe, Jennifer, David. So many of you guys. Welcome. We're going to give it about 30 seconds just so everybody can get in. I see the number is slowly creeping up, so we'll be starting shortly.
Great.
Alrighty, guys, it's 2:32. I see the number is slowly coming to a still. And so, hello, my name is Ariel Rafu, and I want to welcome you guys to TRA Marketplace 2020 online virtual version. This is a very special year to have it online, so we're happy that you guys could join us. Today's session is called Ghost, Virtual, and Dark Kitchen. So you guys are in for a treat today. As I'm sure you guys know and have tested this out already this week, the Q&A button is down below. So if you have any questions throughout, please feel free to type them and we will get them answered either during or at the very end. And I'd also like to talk about our sponsor today, which is Coca-Cola. Thank you, Coca-Cola, for sponsoring our stage Silicon Hills. We do have a quick video for you guys.
We may be one of the world's most familiar companies, but we make more than our name suggests. We're an organic tea company, a premium juice company, a coconut water company. We've got drinks for long days, for birthdays, for turning over new leaves. And we make them for every moment in every corner of the country. We are the Coca-Cola Company, and we're proud to offer so much more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Coca-Cola. If you guys have one in your fridge, go grab one so you can enjoy the session even more. To kick off this session, I'd like to introduce to you guys Anna Tazen, who is our Chief Revenue and Innovation Officer for the Texas Restaurant Association. Thank you so much, Anna, and enjoy.
Thank you, Ariel. Thank you, Cindy, for getting us started. I'm very excited about this session today. Ghost and virtual and dark, whatever we want to call it, is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. I've been watching the movement for a long time now, and I think it's absolutely fascinating what's happening and sort of what the possibilities are, especially for restaurants that are in this pandemic and how they can utilize this new business model to make money, which is great. That's what everyone wants to do. However, as I've talked with all of these great panelists, there are a ton of different models out there. In fact, even though we have 4 experts with us today, I would say there's at least 5, 6 more that we're not talking with that also have a slightly different model. So just take that into account as we start visiting with them, that there's a lot going on out there. There's a ton of innovation in the space, some of which might be right for you and some of which won't. So just keep that in mind. With me today, I'm really excited to have Pete Mora from Fajita Pete's. Wave, Pete. It says his name, I know, but I make people wave. And Jen Hendrickson from Kitchen United. Great. Chef Philip Spear from Commodore and Assembly Kitchen. I'm gonna make you do it. There we go. And then Scott Drummond from Ghoster. Scott, thank you so much for being with us today. Before we get started, I just want to play a little intro music just to sort of set the vibe right. You know, let's relax. Y'all hear that? All right. Okay, there's a reason that I'm doing that. Does anyone have any idea why I'm playing Tyga right now? Scott, you can't answer because you were on the phone earlier. Okay, great. I figured no one would know, and I didn't know until recently either. But Tyga, who is a rap artist, actually recently launched his own virtual kitchen called Tyga Bites. And I did, thank you, Ariel, I did have to go and ask my team. I was like, is it Tyga or is it Tyga? And they were like, Anna, you're so lame. It's Tyga, obviously. But they also didn't know that he had just launched a virtual kitchen himself. So Tyga Bites. And then there's another headline recently, you guys probably saw this, that Brinker announced it, well, not a real new concept, but it's just wings. A virtual restaurant that delivers food from its own menu, cooked to order in other restaurant kitchens. So Brinker, who owns Chili's and Maggiano's, is now going to be cooking It's Just Wings inside Chili's and Maggiano's and deliver exclusively through DoorDash, which I thought was really interesting. Tomorrow there is a different panel related to delivery, and that one is titled Scream Inside Your Heart, Restaurants and Delivery. Yes, I did come up with the title because delivery is terrifying for a lot of restaurant operators. Partnering with third-party delivery specifically can be really detrimental, or it can be very beneficial. It just depends on how you write the contract and what kind of volume you're moving. We won't touch too much on third-party delivery today, although it will naturally come up because a lot of people are using third-party delivery to move their product. But just so you know, that session is tomorrow at 4 p.m. It's with my good friend Kristen Hawley, who writes the newsletter Expedite, which if you are a restaurant tech nerd and are not subscribed to Expedite right now, you should absolutely go and do that. So, okay, to kick things off, I'd really like to talk with each of you a little bit about what your model is. So just real quick, let's start with Pete. Pete, why don't you start and tell us a little bit more about Fajita Pete's. When did you guys get started? Just an overview of the model.
Well, in Fajita Pete's, we started in 2008. And from the beginning, it's been a 1,200 square foot kitchens, very little dine-in. We had 4 tables at the first location, and slowly pushed the counter up as we evolved. We began with a very simple menu from the beginning that also got simpler as we went on, and we deliver with in-house drivers. 97% of our business is out the door, whether it's catering, pickup, or delivery. And that's held pretty steady through the years since the beginning. Since the world changed recently here in Houston on March 17th, the numbers haven't changed, but where the sales come from has changed, in the sense of obviously there's not that much corporate catering now, but it's just changed to nighttime business or different types of deliveries that we're doing.
Are you still working with are you working with any event partners, people that used to put on big events and now they've moved to virtual, and so they're using your delivery mechanism to get food to participants? Have you guys started doing any of that?
We've been doing a lot of individual meals, even deliveries to caterings to people in different areas, which is its own mess. People doing meetings like this where we delivered to everybody joining that meeting in separate parts. So we've seen a lot of people get very creative with it. And thankfully for us, we've been doing it so long that it hasn't changed the way we do things too much, but it has created some new challenges and opportunities as well in the recent months. Great.
Well, little did you know, we actually arranged that for everyone. So if you open your door, you'll be getting some feet. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. We don't have that kind of budget. But it is a really fun idea. Sorry. You were like, I didn't know about this. No, but in the future, that's definitely something that we're seeing. We actually had a session yesterday about the future of catering and events, and we're starting to see that a lot more, where people are, bringing the online offline by incorporating different delivered meals, during different virtual sessions, which I think makes a lot of sense, but is really all about timing. So speaking of timing, Chef Philip Spear, let's go with you next to talk a little bit about Assembly Kitchen, because you guys have kind of an interesting model too, and it really is all about the timing. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yes, so the timing is very important. This isn't all restaurant operations. I mean, timing is everything. Where we began, Commodore was, our first day was April 16th of 2019. So 11 months in, we actually shut down on the 16th, not the 17th. So 11 months in, we closed our dining room, which, for a brand new restaurant, which gratefully we had been achieving some success in our restaurant, was a really strange feeling to be at at that point in a short time at the top of our little game at that point, to have to shut the doors down. It was awful for a lot of reasons, mainly the staff and having to go through that. But we had assumed that there would be some shutdowns, so we'd already in our sort of started creating the infrastructure to begin a pivot, and that pivot is Assembly Kitchen. And Assembly Kitchen, we decided at the very beginning that we had no interest in doing Comedor to go, because we were concerned about the integrity of the product once it got to your home. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to have Comedor in your home, but we wanted it fresh. So we began a virtual cooking, a virtual led cooking session where we delivered the food to your home, and about 85% of it was done. And really all you were doing is reheating or crisping, searing, something of that sort, and then cutting the garnish and building the plates. And that was all done with menu cards and video instruction by myself and some of the other chefs in the company. We created our own in-house delivery system because, you know, as you said before, the third-party systems are very difficult to use. And, you know, with our in-house sterile delivery system and, you know, really focusing on cleanliness and good hygiene practices, we felt confident getting Commodore food into your home that you could do. And we've since pivoted or evolved to really, you're asking about virtual concessions and virtual parties. And that's really where we see ourselves for the future, especially as dining rooms begin to reopen. Assembly Kitchen has, you know, we still use amazing dishes and some of the chefs from Commodore to create some of the food, but we've grown beyond that. We've been really focusing on incorporating other local businesses and makers into our model as well.
Yeah, I know I actually ordered from Assembly Kitchen recently when it was Willie's Picnic. I think that's one of the ones that you guys partnered with, which I thought was great.
That was awesome.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about how that worked?
Yeah, absolutely. So that partnership was through Luck Reunion and Austin Food and Wine Alliance. And when we began collaborating and brainstorming on that event, you know, we knew that we were hoping to provide the concessions for this event. Luck was looking for a concession partner since they were now doing something new, which was, you know, the 4th of July picnic from a virtual space. And, you know, they knew they were going to miss out on all of the what made that fun, right? The drink, the food. And then Austin Food and Wine Alliance was sort of the bridge between the two of us. And what we did was we brainstormed using all of previous Food and Wine Alliance grant recipients who were culinary makers in the community. So from Two Hives Honey to you know, Nixta, we used, you know, their salsa matcha, to Urban American Farmer. We utilized some publication that she had written and things of the sort. So we had seven partners on this, and we were able to also partner with Garage, a bar that we own, and put these concessions out to 300 people around the state with our infrastructure.
Yeah, I really like that model. I actually still have a teeny bit of the Nixta hot sauce still in my fridge because it's so good. But it is kind of like waking up on Christmas morning, except it's in the afternoon, and just whenever you need like a good snack that you don't have to do much with, and get a booze, like some booze too. Like it is fantastic. So I love to see where this goes.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Christmas, we were partnering with the Food and Wine Alliance to do Christmas boxes in each of the 4 cities. Each of those boxes offering 6 to 8 makers in those communities that we can highlight. And so, you know, you can gift a San Antonio box to someone in Austin, or a San Antonio box to someone in San Antonio, in the 4 largest Texas cities.
I really love that, Chef. That's fantastic. I will definitely be purchasing one of each. So let me know when it goes live so I can do that.
Absolutely.
Next, let's sort of make a pivot a little bit and talk with Jen with Henriksen from Kitchen United. Kitchen United is not brand new, as in it didn't get created during the pandemic. But Jen, maybe you can give us a quick overview of the business and what the expansion has looked like.
Sure. First, it's a pleasure to be here. And then quickly, I'll just add, for everybody's benefit, as we're all working from home office, I have 2 dogs that are really high maintenance. So if they make an appearance and throw me off track, just bear with me.
Totally fine.
Sure. So we've been around for about 3 years. So we've had a lot of practice at this. We typically, we prefer the term sort of kitchen center versus ghost kitchen. Sounds a little bit inaccessible maybe, or dark, kind of secretive. We're seeing a number of models today out in the marketplace. Typically, we look for a clean rectangular box in a high dense populated area, urban centers typically. We'll fill those boxes with about 10 unique restaurant brands. We put a lot of data behind our filling of kitchen centers and where we're located. So we look for cuisines that are in demand, and then we look for brands that have an established consumer following to meet that demand in that trade area. Consumers can order through really any channel. We have a pretty complex tech stack that aggregates orders. And so the consumer can come in through our channel, KU Mix, and they can order across all concepts within one of our kitchen centers on one ticket for pickup or delivery. They can order directly from the restaurant through the restaurant apps and platforms, social media platforms, and they can order through the marketplaces like the Uber Eats and the Grubhubs of the world, the Favors in your part of the country. The kitchen center is staffed, back of house and front of house staffing with Kitchen United employees. So we can handle, idea is for it to be turnkey. We can handle everything from receiving food supply in the morning to cleaning, maintaining equipment, to running food, getting food to the right person at the front of house. And the restaurant brand comes into their dedicated 4-wall space that is locking and secure with a full line of kitchen equipment. Idea being turnkey. Typically, the brands will staff with 2 employees at any given time for their day parts to handle all of the food prep and packaging and just getting everything ready for delivery. So the restaurants maintain their brand, their product, and we just help facilitate, enable that getting to the off-premise diner.
But there's also the, can you talk a little bit more about the lobby, like what that kind of looks like? Because it's not just.
Yes, we have a small pickup center front of house where we have kiosks where consumers can walk in and they can order through the KU Mix channel from all of the concepts. We put the brands forward, so lots of signage so that everybody knows what concepts are in each facility. We don't put competing concepts within a facility. It really has become this kind of interesting collaborative community around the cooking and the brands that are in our facilities today. We have 4 facilities open. We're in Scottsdale and Austin and just down the road from you, and Chicago and Pasadena.
Yeah, it really was excellent being able to take a look at the Austin building before it was finished. The most fascinating part that I loved was the conveyor belt, you know, there in the middle to move the food from down the line. And I was like, man, I wish they had a window into this so that people could see, you know, that conveyor belt moving their food forward. That would be amazing. But not everyone wants to see sort of the behind the scenes magic. And behind the scenes magic brings me to our next panelist, actually, because Scott is very familiar with back of house magic, but now he's working on a new concept called Ghoster, which I think is really, really fascinating. So Scott, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me. It's great to be with this panel. You know, as you mentioned early on, Anna, there's a million different versions out there around ghost kitchens, dark kitchens, you know, virtual brands and the like. And I think at the end of the day, what we recognize is really 2 things. Operators need new ways to generate revenue. That was true before COVID, and it's absolutely even more true now. And secondly, consumers want food prepared very close to where they live. They want access to food immediately. They want to pay less. They want the food to be higher quality. They want it to be exactly what they want on their terms. And so we developed this new concept called Ghoster. It's a ghost restaurant operating system. And what that means is that we provide an operator, really any operator who has under leveraged kitchens, the ability to generate extra revenue. And they implement our virtual brands. We provide everything else. We provide customer acquisition, a really simple, elegant tech solution, all the tools that are necessary to implement one or more of our virtual brands, and then the ability to implement delivery and to get it quickly and cost effectively to the customer. And so it's incredibly exciting. We sort of think about ourselves as a ghost restaurant in a box. Open the box, get cooking, generate additional revenue. It couldn't be simpler. And we're excited to announce that our launch will be next month in Dallas, which is timely given this panel. So we're incredibly excited, and we think it's going to be the wave of the future.
Well, I would hope so. We definitely don't want to look to the past anymore. And we do know that the restaurant industry, as we have experienced it before, has definitely experienced a huge shakeup. And will not look the same that it did before, probably ever. We actually have a session on that on Friday where I'm going to be talking with a few sort of future thinkers to talk a little bit about that. Michael Atkinson and Ram Krupp So we'll talk about that then. But today we're all about possibility, not doom and gloom, hopefully. So let's sort of dig into that. And Scott, I want to stick with you and tell me a little bit about why now. I think the answer is obvious, but why is now a good time for existing restaurant brands to think about this new model as a potential revenue source?
Yeah, well, we looked at doing this before COVID. And the reason for it was as we looked at all of the investment being made in restaurant facilities and other food cooking facilities, catering kitchens, corporate facilities, venue facilities. And you look at the landscape of investment that's out there from a kitchen development standpoint, there are more than enough kitchens. But the problem is that the majority of those kitchens are underutilized. I would argue that probably 90% of them aren't being utilized to their fullest potential. So if you look at that landscape, you realize that the key to generating additional revenue out of those kitchens is not to build more kitchens. It's to give experienced entrepreneurs and operators the tools to generate revenue streams that aren't a distraction from their existing business. And that's one of the key things about Ghoster, is that a restaurant operator is going to continue to operate their brand against the model that they currently have. The Ghoster brands are actually incremental to that. They're essentially separate businesses that the operator runs out of the same facility with little or no extra investment. And so we can help the operator get started more quickly. Capital investment is incredibly low. There's very little startup cost. We actually guarantee for our pilot partners the ability to be cost-free until they recoup their initial investment for startup. And the advantage of that is that we're finding ways to create more variety, to give the operators more flexibility, more agility, and a sort of a better business model, we think. Our perspective, COVID didn't actually create the problem. COVID already exposed the problem. So operators may have been successful in a few locations and opened a third or a fourth or a fifth, and it wasn't as successful. Perfect Ghoster opportunity. Or a COVID impact. An operator is forced to limit their front of house to 50% of capacity. Ghoster is a great way to recoup some of that. So there's so many great use cases for it. And I think as we come out of COVID, the thing that gets us excited is consumer expectations are not going to change. People are going to be used to these new delivery models, new ways to access brands, new formats, and they're just going to want that to continue. So I think, look, COVID obviously is horrible, but it's also spawning some really interesting new business models.
I'm gonna come back to the idea of training consumers later, Scott, because I think there's some good sort of ethical discussions around that later. But for now, I'm sort of thinking about Pete, right? Pete runs a fajita business, and people don't typically eat fajitas for breakfast. So is that sort of a same kind of model that you're thinking, where Pete has kitchens available? They're not being utilized, as at the full extent during breakfast hours. Like, is that sort of what you're looking for? Like, what is your target?
We would love to partner with you, Pete. Give me a call when we're done, and we'll figure out a strategy.
Perfect.
But yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of predatory behavior in the restaurant industry where people are looking to make a buck off somebody else and aren't really concerned about their success or their profitability or their long-term, sustainability. And so, we're operators at heart. I ran a 10-unit chain for a while, and I learned all the scary stuff about that. And I know what it's like to be staring down down the barrel of that gun. So we want to actually be an advocate for operators and give them new tools and new ways to adapt. And at the end of the day, if we can help generate a bump in revenue out of a an existing restaurant that wasn't doing breakfast, back to your original question, that's a perfect use case. And it doesn't even have to be restaurants. There's a lot of people there who are under the gun for lease payments and rent on kitchen facilities that aren't maximizing the return on that investment. And that's where we can be partners to our host restaurants.
I think that's really fascinating, Scott. And honestly, I've had some really great conversations with some other people locally here in Austin they're talking about using empty kitchen spaces, ones that aren't opening or won't be opening anytime soon, for schools, frankly, because people need a place for their kids to go. Restaurants certainly know and already have things set up to keep things sanitary. Like, what would that look like? What kind of grants would be available for restaurants to use to become like sort of a school facility? That's obviously not the conversation we're having now, but I think it's really interesting to start thinking about, this is an empty space. with a fantastic commercial kitchen, like what else can be done with it? I don't know. I think there's a lot there. And I think it's really interesting too, that basically Philip created essentially what we're talking about, Ghoster, but with his own kitchen using a different kind of brand. He's not sending Commodore food out the door. So that's the big difference, but he is using Assembly Kitchen to send things out the door. So let's stick with partnerships real quick, and then we'll move on to delivery. So Jen, the obvious question for you is, who are you looking for when it comes to restaurant brands? Are you looking for established brands? Are you looking for new emerging ones? Are you looking for ones that haven't even been tested yet?
So almost all of those. So part of our philosophy is that we support restaurant brands and really want to enable their growth and how they serve the off-premise business. We very strongly, fundamentally believe in the traditional brick and mortar establishments. Dine-in may be taking a hit right now, but diners will come back. And I was on another panel this morning where actually, they're seeing that correlation as we open, where dine-in spikes back up and takeout and delivery goes down. And food is an emotional thing, and we're going to continue wanting to connect and celebrate around those things. As far as brands that come into our kitchens, we typically partner with established brands that have a consumer following. So some models will work with incubator brands or even create some of those brands themselves. That really is not in our wheelhouse. We kind of tying back to what Scott was saying about, during this particular time, what is happening is, while the off-premise demand was happening pre-pandemic, it is now accelerating the need and making clear the need for digital footprints, digital presence, a digital relationship with your consumer. And at the same time, there's an opportunity right now for all of us to expand beyond our traditional digital user. So typically, for example, we target, high density millennial Gen Z populations, because those are the big adopters of digital and the big users of digital. What's happening today is that other age groups are they're learning these technologies to receive whatever product they want in a contactless way. So there's an opportunity, I think, for all of us to pay some attention to digital footprint and really sort of capitalize and maximize revenues out of those other channels as we come back.
And just to sort of swing it around to the delivery idea, you're working with all the different the third-party companies, correct? Okay.
We do. We aggregate everything onto one KDS printer in the kitchen.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about delivery. Pete, let's go with you first. I know you mentioned at the top that all of your employees, your delivery people are your employees, and they do the delivery for you. Why did you decide to do it that way instead of partnering with a third party?
Frankly, when I opened in 2008, there were no third parties, so it wasn't an option. And then I got the problem with having co-workers, team members, is that you end up liking them. And then when that happens, it's hard to introduce third parties and take food off their table. We're actually trying something different recently where we minimize the fees from the third parties, and we utilize our own drivers within our typical 3-mile radius. And then the third parties take anything outside of that. So that's a happy middle ground that we found recently.
Okay, so Chef Spear, let's go over to you then. How does it work with your delivery? How do you get the people to do the delivery and handoff?
Well, when we began the pivot initially, we wanted to utilize our current employees. As Pete said, we like our employees, so we wanted to create. We were able to create jobs for them, or at least sustain some employment for them, albeit very different. We created our own tech stack as well, which, we are not logistics, nor are we tech people. So this, putting this all together was all a lot of unknown for us. So as it evolved, at first we didn't have a way to tip couldn't figure out a way to tip our delivery drivers. So we did a straight delivery fee, and that went to them for every delivery they did. And as we evolved and learning how to really make this infrastructure more complete and more stable, we were able to continue to hire our own staff to drive the products. That is everything, again, as Pete said, within a certain radius in Austin. Now we ship Texas wide, and we use LSO, UPS, and FedEx to get our meal boxes into people's homes. But other than that, we don't utilize any other third-party service, DoorDash, Uber Eats, anything of the sort. However, with Commodore, with the diet, we waited until just a few weeks ago to reopen. So we went from 25 to 50 to 75 back down to 50, and that's when we opened. And it's very hard to, as Scott is alluding to, the system's been broken for a long time of how profits work in restaurants, and it's not a system that is easy to succeed in, and especially how it is now and the way that real estate is today. So I mean, what he's doing is brilliant, and I love the fact that you say you want to make it easier for restaurants to create new revenue, and not make not looking to capitalize on that, and I think that's a beautiful perspective and very helpful. And I'm sure there's a lot of spaces who could do that. We've moved into a restaurant space next door since Commodore has reopened, and we're utilizing their kitchen to do our assembly kitchen work. But the system is not really set up to be viably successful in that way. So I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought on what I was talking about when I started thinking about the system.
It happens to all of us.
Right.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
No, we were talking about third-party delivery services. Yeah. So as we reopened in Commodore, we found out this isn't really going. These numbers aren't adding up. It's not going to work. We have to introduce a system of delivery of food from Commodore. So we wanted to utilize our assembly kitchen drivers, but it didn't work. There's too much on everyone's plate to do so. So we incorporated one of the third-party delivery systems, and it's a pretty crappy situation. They charge us 30% and then go and charge the guest 15%, and that's hard. That is not sustainable for us, and it's not sustainable for many independent smaller restaurants. I'm sure something like UX. You have multiple concepts coming out of one kitchen. I'm sure you can create better contracts, but as a single unit with low delivery and not a proven model for success there, we didn't get those contract benefits and contractual benefits, and we with our third-party services have to pay a lot of money for that to work, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, we actually we may have some good news for you down the road, Chef. So just stay tuned to that. Just stick with stay alive, and we'll talk.
Oh, you're gonna. COVID's going away. Is that the news? Is that the end of it?
Yes, surprise. No, it's not that. It has to do with third party. I'm so sorry. I wish I could. I would if I could.
You're teasing us. First there was fajitas at our door. Now.
I just want people to stay tuned. That's all I'm doing here.
Okay.
Involved. So Scott, remind me, what's the plan with Ghoster then? How's the delivery going to happen there?
Well, we're seeing the same thing that Pete and Phil are talking about in terms of the impact of third party on I think primarily that personal relationship between the restaurant and the guest has been lost because of third party. And so I think it's a combination of things. I think first of all, bringing that radius in tighter, as Pete was saying, so that more about your customers and your guests. Recognize the fact that the third-party delivery companies are forcing you to be all things to all people, and you can actually create a very viable incremental revenue stream through a closer radius of customers, through a tighter focus area. And once you do that, then you don't have to rely on third-party marketplaces. There's a myriad of solutions that you can deploy to get your product to those customers. And so we're going to be utilizing primarily independent delivery partners who are going to be delivering to, as I said, a much more focused radius. And the advantage of that is then we can start to implement our data, and we can start to understand our guests in really good, really strong ways. We can understand their preferences. We can start to use that data to create different portfolios of virtual brands for different market areas, different trade areas. And so that, again, connects back to this idea of flexibility and agility, giving the operator the ability to implement a different mix in one area than they might in a second location that they have across town. And there's no other platform that allows you to have flexibility in terms of how you create that connection to your best customers.
It's really good to hear you say that. And clearly we've got some very woke restaurant owners here, and I really appreciate that, you guys. So Kristen, if you're listening, I think you said you were going to join in on this session. Maybe you can talk about sort of the ethical conflicts when it comes to making some of these big restaurant delivery companies bigger, but this is not the audience to ask that. So I'm gonna move on. We do have some questions in the audience. If you guys have some other questions, please get them in. I know Cindy just launched a poll because we do want to find out, okay, we're calling them virtual, dark, ghost, like it's all over the place. Let's settle it like what we're actually calling them. So Cindy, at 3:10, can you just push the results to that? But in the meantime, a question for you, Scott. How long does it take to get new brands set up with Ghoster?
So we're launching with 3 virtual brands, and we have 6 in development right now. We probably could have more in the pipeline right now, but we want to get it in the market and understand, use our analytics, understand where preference is. We have obviously ideas about where the gaps are, and I think going forward, we envision the portfolio being at any time maybe 10 to 15 virtual brands. Now, no one operator would implement that many. I think the sweet spot is probably between 2 and maybe 4. And then honestly, one of the advantages of these platforms, of Ghost and virtual brand platforms, is that if a trend comes and goes, you kill it. And you're not saddled with the baggage of a physical location that's selling, pokey. Let's say pokey's done. No offense to anybody who's in pokey in the audience, but that doesn't have to. We don't have to keep that on the roster. And so again, it just goes back to that agility. In terms of development time, it's no different than we have an executive chef on staff, and we have a team that's in process right now on the next set of concepts. And the easy part from us, we've got branding backgrounds, so fortunately, the ability to quickly bring a brand to market and package it correctly is something we're comfortable with.
That's really great. That's really great. Philip, are you guys doing pickup and delivery, or is it just delivery right now?
We are now doing at both Assembly Kitchen and in Commodore. We are doing pickup and delivery both. So you can pick up. Excuse me.
What's your percentage breakdown between those two?
Between what two? Delivery and pickup?
Delivery.
In which business?
Yes, both.
Okay. I would say with Assembly Kitchen, with the meal kits, it's probably 80-20, and vice versa in the restaurant. We're not doing a ton of pickup. Actually, hey, Luis, what's the percentage of pickup to delivery for to-go currently? We've also been doing this for 6 services, I think. It's very new to us. He's saying 60-40.
Yeah.
Pickup.
Okay.
So I was totally off. I do want to. Now that I'm unmuted, Scott. Scott touched on another point. I think I'm gonna have a conversation with Scott offline. But he touched on another point where, hospitality, right? He didn't say those words, but that's what we do. That's what I do. And I'm in this business because I like to be around people and serve people and know my guests and create relationships with my guests and my community. And I think it's very important that, as we move into this virtual world, we still be able to retain a piece of that, because that's, that's who we are. That's who we are as restaurateurs, I believe, and chefs. So I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, I'm glad you underlined that, chefs. I appreciate you saying that. This is a really good question from Lisa Palakis actually in the chat. And she's asking, looking 5 to 10 years ahead, if a restaurant is doing new construction, in 5 to 10 years, would you recommend building extra kitchen production capacity to run virtual spaces or run virtual kitchens? Scott, what do you think? And then Jen, I'd like for you to take that after. Scott.
Yeah, I think it depends on the economics. If you're looking at, obviously, first thought on that is that the incremental cost for additional capacity at the time of your initial construction is not massive. But at the same time, one of the classic problems in the restaurant industry and restaurant development is overbuilding. And so, I think my real reaction would be, I would want to meet with you, understand how many units you have, and I would almost guarantee you that we can find gaps to leverage incremental revenue. And I would rather start there before I advise you to spend extra money on CapEx. I just don't think you need to. I think there is enough infrastructure and after COVID, the amount of available kitchen space is going to be what, 3x, 5x? Nobody knows. So I'm going to go all in on no, don't build anymore.
Jen, what do you think?
Well, I think, I think it's open for debate, and you have to pick the model that's going to work best for you. One of the ways that you could leverage ghost concepts is to sort of like a hub and spoke approach in the market, either one that you're in, where you have a brick and mortar, you have a market presence, you have a consumer following, you build out your digital brand, and then you leverage ghost concepts in sort of regionally to grow and expand your brand, to reach new consumers. Euromonitor recently, I think just a couple weeks ago, issued a study that they're expecting ghost kitchens alone could take, a third of a $3 trillion global food spend by 2030. So whatever you choose to do, I would just recommend being in touch with all of the pieces that need to be in place to reach those off-premise consumers, and make sure that you're getting your portion of that share of revenue. In a ghost kitchen environment, we've gotten relatively good at building these in a pretty efficient manner. We handle all the permitting, we handle all of these typical CapEx and sort of like the complexities of building a brick and mortar. And so we do have brands that have gotten in and up and running within, I think our quickest was 4 or 5 weeks.
That's really astounding, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So Pete, this question is for you because you did this already. But Ashley is asking, what would be the first step for an operator if they wanted to create a ghost style kitchen? What would you advise them?
I think what I did when I moved from my 60-table restaurant to Fajita Pete was minimize the menu. Really analyze what you're good at. And that's why the name Fajita Pete's came out. I mean, I wanted to, people aren't coming in here ordering, ravioli. They know what they're getting when they get here. It's something we can make. It's something that travels well. It's something, your point about third party, at that time it was, I'm hand making these tortillas. I hand roll them. I burn my hands. I want to be the one handing it off to you. If 95% of what you see is that driver, then that's what I want to control the process from my grill to the table, to their table. So I think it would be minimize the menu, pick something versatile that you don't have to educate the market on. That's what I did. I don't know if that's the right answer, but that's what worked for me. And it really took off. People now are understanding what ghost kitchens are, but at that time it was really hard to educate the market on, hey, you just do one thing. Yeah. So now I think there's more opportunity for people. You just have to pick the right product and simplify the process and fit it into as small a footprint as possible.
Well, I mean, you nail it with fajitas, right? I mean, that's a great product. It travels well, like you were saying. So I'm going to ask, this is the final question, and then we'll have to end the session, sadly, because I could talk about this forever. But Jen, while I'm asking this question, do you mind finding that Euromonitor article and posting it in the chat that mentioned the fact that ghost is going to take up about a third of the food dollar? I found that stat really interesting.
I think it's in a PDF, but I'll do a quick Google search.
Okay, yeah, see what you can find. But I'd like to ask the rest of the audience, let's start with Scott, Pete, Philip, and then Jen while she's looking. Who is your ideal customer? Like, what brings your customer into the ghost concept versus brick and mortar?
You said you want me to go first?
Yes, please, sir.
I think our ideal customer is a savvy operator, entrepreneur with passion that wants to grow their business in a new way, and recognizes that this is a way of positively affecting their business, and it's almost an insurance policy to keep them viable and allow them to keep doing what they love doing, which is cooking food for their guests. And that's our perfect client, perfect customer.
Yeah. Pete, you next.
Well, our customer is somebody, it's always been somebody who's busy. I tell people we deliver convenience. with the side of fajitas. So it's always been somebody very local that's going between picking up from school and dropping off at karate. It's been that type of customer for us from the beginning. And then the corporate customer, when we came in, people in Houston weren't delivering to anybody under 50 people, under 40 people. So I said, I market it where I do anything from 5 to 39 people out in market. And then that's what got me in the door to these companies. Because, you know, as we know, to Philip's point, hospitality, once you get into one, you're going to get the 1,800 person catering, the 2,200 person catering. And I wanted to touch on that relationship building point, which is crucial to small operators, and it goes to the heart of what we like to do. And it's knowing your customer. I take pride in the fact that I have a picture with a kid when he was 7 years old, and I have a picture with him when he graduated from college, his event I catered. So those things cannot go away. And I think maybe it's old fashioned, maybe I'm getting to the age where I tell people to get off my lawn, but I think those things will come back and will remain important. In the short interactions we have with guests when we do curbside here at our locations, they appreciate the fact that those 20, 30 seconds are genuine and are real and are representative of what the hard work that goes on in the back of the house is.
Perfect, Pete. Chef Spear?
Yeah, that was great. I think, you know, our ideal customer is someone who's still craving, and when I say still, I mean it's only been 5 months, but is craving that connection, that intimate connection to a restaurant, to that hospitality experience, is looking for restaurant quality food in their home, but they're also looking for entertainment. And it's something that you can provide to the people in your home, whether you're quarantining, whether you have decided to have a few people over, or if it's just for your family. And we can do, you know, the heavy lifting for you, get that to you, and you can recreate that in your home and engage in that and engage in your people. And then you become the person who's giving the hospitality to the people around you. And I think that is our ideal customer.
Perfect. Jen?
So our customer essentially really belongs to the brands that are in our spaces, and we're just enabling that. But typically that consumer is forward-thinking, digitally savvy. We want to serve them the cuisine they want, when they want it, how they want it, and we want to make sure we do it in a quality way where we are representing all of those brands that are within our facility.
Perfect. Great. Well, you guys, this has been really wonderful. Like I said, we could talk about this probably for another hour and really dig in. Scott, your brain is fantastic. I really love following your career from Eatsa now to Ghoster. This is going to be great. You guys all have each other's email addresses. If you have any other follow-up questions, send them over to me. You can always get a hold of me from txrestaurant.org, and I'll make sure these guys get it. So thank you, each one of you, for taking the time. Definitely go take a look at the next set of sessions that we're already a little bit late for at tramarketplace.com. And this is day 4 of 6. So remember, there's 2 more days of content. Thank you all very much and have a great day.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. It was nice to meet you all.
Bye.
Bye.